Hello and welcome. We are live. This is Highly Articulated. More specifically, this is Northern Outpost Debrief. We will be chatting for about an hour about what's going on in G.I. Joe Classified. We will mostly be talking about what happened this week with Yo-Jo June. Here today to chat with me is Steve Power. How's it going, buddy?
Yeah, pretty good. How are you?
I'm well. I'm happy. I'm rested. I'm well fed because it's Father's Day, so we had a nice big breakfast. How about yourself?
I am equally well fed. I just finished a meal of barbecue ribs, which was absolutely amazing. So good. Just, rolling around the house on Father's Day, trying to take it easy and failing miserably.
I always like to point this out that when it's Father's Day, what most fathers want to do is be left alone and kind of do the things that they don't get time to do. And what it always turns into is spend time with your kids. Like it never works out the way that we want.
My attitude about that, is they're the reason that we are fathers, right? Like if it's not for all of us, if Father's Day is not for us and the kids, who's it for, really? Like. Andrea made a fantastic supper. That's all I want. I'm cool with that. I don't even expect that,
If I'm being honest, the only way that I'm allowed to buy these toys and to have gotten back into toy collecting was because of our kids. If I had took my wife to Toys R Us without any kids and been like, hey, I'm just gonna start buying action figures, she'd have been like, no, like who are you? What is I got my shirt. This David Bax got me this shirt when George was born. So I'm wearing my shirt. I got to admit, I feel a little bit uncomfortable wearing a t-shirt that just says "Daddy" on it.
That's pretty awesome. Awesome.
I can wear it today and people kind of get it, but I mean, if I just wore this on a random Tuesday afternoon and I was by myself, it might not translate. But thank you to David for the wonderful gift. We got a few people watching. So James is here. Now you'll have to remind me, Loco. I'll figure out who these names connect to soon enough. I think Loco is Luke. Am I right, Luke or Loco? AI Collectibles. I don't know who AI Collectibles is. Tyler, what's up, Tyler? Toon Doctor, I recognize the avatar. That's Hervé. Thank you. There you go. People are getting wise, letting us know who's with us today, chatting and hanging out. Hello, Larry. How's it going, buddy? But let's get right into it. We're gonna start as I always like to with show and tell. Steve, did you pick up anything or did you have any shipments arrive? I think we kind of live in this world where it's rare that we're going to the store and buying anything.
Two of the girls did pick up some pretty cool stuff. That gave it to me this evening actually for Father's Day. I got like this McFarlane 7-inch. Here he is, Geralt from the Witcher series, and Ciri, he's like ward or adopted daughter. I'm a huge fan of the Witcher games. The Netflix show was pretty cool too, but like I'm a huge fan of the games, and of course they know I'm a huge fan of the games. So I thought that was kind of neat, and it's not something that they usually go out of their way. They don't usually buy me toys, so I thought that was pretty awesome. I thought that was pretty cool.
That's awesome for sure. Those figures are great. I wish they were scaled a little bit smaller because then they would
me too.
And stuff. That McFarlane stuff, like he's I think he's just being stubborn, but just will not.
I want to be bigger than everybody else.
Like literally. I literally need my figures to be bigger than everybody else's figures. Yeah, those figures are really, really cool. They're great figures, good sculpts. The new, like the sort of first batch of them was okay. The sculpts were okay. The most recent ones are phenomenal. Like
Yeah.
the attention to detail and sort of how much more accurate the sculpts have gotten is pretty impressive.
I was impressed with the posability too. Like my experience with McFarlane has been kind of hit and miss. It's been iffy. I find a lot of times, they make great looking statues, but but I got to say, I got those two, and I picked up a Mass Effect Andromeda figure a few months back just on clearance, and I was impressed. I was really impressed with it. It was a pretty solid figure, good posability, and a nice little display stand and stuff with it. So they're doing good work.
That's now you've kind of thrown me for a loop, because Steve, I was under the impression that Classified was sort of the only toy line that you collect. Is that
it really is
a line that's the only one that you collect, but you'll kind of grab bits and pieces here and there?
Yeah, and even then, it's kind of a like Mass Effect, favorite video game series of all time. Huge fan of The Witcher. Some of the Assassin's Creed stuff, like years ago now, probably about a decade or so ago, I picked up one of those Play Arts Kai Assassin's Creed Ezio figures, and I mean, on occasion I'll grab something, but more often than not, these days it's just entirely focused on Classified. I did get into Black Series for a little while, but mainly Classified.
Cool.
I just have such a nostalgic attachment to G.I. Joe, right?
It's weird to me when I chat with somebody who like doesn't have a nostalgic attachment to G.I. Joe, but they're fans of Classified. Like, it's like, oh yeah, these are really great 6-inch figures, and I'm like, but you don't know, like you don't know the backgrounds. Like, it would be so much easier to pass on figures, I think, if you didn't know who they were. You didn't, like, you would just pick. You could just randomly cherry pick. Like, oh, I like this one. I like this one. And then you wouldn't be like, oh, well, the Ninja Snake Eyes is fine, but I want the Commando Snake Eyes, and that's my Snake Eyes. For them, it's just like, oh, that's a cool figure. I'll buy that one.
What are you talking about? What do you mean Commando Snake Eyes? What?
Commando, he just has a different mask. I thought that was just a different design. Like, oh, well.
That was another character. I thought it was just a SWAT guy.
Yeah. The debate rages on. I was lucky to, this is the only figure that I was still waiting on, and I was very happy when eCollectibles messaged and said, hey, I got a very small batch of these in, and I will be shipping yours out to you. So they live up to the hype. This is I love the Trooper. I love the Infantry when they did the recolor. The Vipers are great. But I keep hearing like this is like the best troop builder.
Yeah. He's fantastic. He's absolutely fantastic. I mean, I was pretty impressed with the Cobra Island Trooper and the Infantry, but man, he's another level.
I think what's really great about this, I'll just keep him up on the screen because he's so good. I think what's really great about this one is that he's so simple.
Yeah.
The articulation's all there, and it's all, very functional, because they haven't sort of gone overboard with a vest, and he's not too chunky and heavy and stuff like that. And everything works. He can get into all the poses, and the accessories are great. The harness is really great because it doesn't hinder his movement, but it's still got lots of cool stuff with the pockets, and you can store the bits on the belt on the back and all that kind of stuff. So that's the back, and you could store his rifle back there, but then you can pop the spare magazine in the little sight or whatever that is in his belt as well, which I'm always a fan of figures that can carry all their accessories. I think that's a must for like a military tactical kind of figure. Otherwise, what do you do with all that stuff?
Yeah, and that's a huge thing. Like, just being able to stow all the accessories for me is massive. Is such a cool, because I do take them out, I do display them. So, I like to have everything with the figure. So,
so getting back to the comments here, Todd Father is stubborn. Need thigh articulation or more than two figures. Yeah, I mean, that's and the articulation schemes tend to have like weird, like the torso sort of cut tends to always be not quite where it should be and not quite move the way it should. And but good on him. He's doing what he wants, right? I think any complaint that we could possibly have is purely out of jealousy, because he's got a toy line and he can do what he wants, and he does. Don't go down the rabbit hole. I mean, I don't know what line that's referring to, or if that's just collecting in general, but
it could be collecting in general. Yeah.
I think that's advice that we all should have heard a long time ago.
Yeah.
Aaron says easily the best articulation of the Hasbro figures. Wish their other lines would add the drop down hips, and he fixed his error there. The drop down hips are great for certain poses. I don't need them all the time. I find that I can kind of get away with most things without the drop down hips. But if you want to get them like in a really low squat or something like that, then for sure, or a really high kick or sort of something like that. But
I love them. I love the drop down hips, but at the same time, I'm always mega paranoid about them. Like that point of contact is just so thin, and some of those figures, you start messing around with them out of the package, and it really feels like they're twisting instead of actually moving, and it's just, I know the hot water bath and all of that kind of stuff, or shock oil, but just playing with a toy.
Yeah, and I mean there is that. I reached out to Hasbro for the first time about an issue of the product. My Spirit had a foot that didn't fit onto the ankle properly, and like probably 60% of me was like, "Who cares? It's a toy." Like, this is gonna nag at me.
Yep.
Forever if I don't reach out. So I have a Spirit with a limp. And I'm hoping that maybe they send me another one, and if they don't, show and tell will sort of surprise us with what comes in that box. But
if you get a second one, you can paint them up like Slaughter's Marauders.
I could, but we'll probably just get that figure.
Good chance.
If I get a second one, I'll probably just turn him into fodder, so he'll just become kit bash material. We're getting so many figures, and we'll get to this later, but we're getting so many figures that I've stopped buying extras for fodder, because I did CoverGirl, and then we're doing CoverGirl, and I was like, okay. And everybody, when the first wave came out, everybody took Duke and took Marvel Legends Shaman and made a Spirit, and all those guys were like, oh shoot, like I spent 60 or $100 on parts to build this figure, and now Hasbro came out with one that looks exactly like mine, plus it has an eagle, so it's just funny in that way that we're always chasing a character or a figure, and we're gonna get them sooner rather than later. So I'm not playing that game anymore. Tyler says the officer is great because he's not chunky feeling. No chunk on him for sure, and
he's lean. He's lean,
and he's tactically sort of ready to go. He's got everything he needs and nothing he doesn't, which is really, really great about him.
I kind of like the chunkies. I know a lot of, like, Firefly was a huge bone of contention, but I love that look on Firefly. I love that, like, bomb blasty, just it seems like it suits him.
I made a chunky trooper. I took
nice.
Fast and Zartan's big thick arms, and I actually made a chunky trooper. So
I wanted
more variety. I like the chunky figures are great too. They sort of have their place. I certainly don't. I was one of the people that didn't mind Firefly at all. I like that big vest. I think it looks good. There's issues. I have nitpicks. If they do a version 2 Firefly, I wouldn't be upset. The Alley Viper has a pretty thick, heavy vest, but that figure looks so phenomenal. And for what that figure is, it doesn't really bother me. I don't use as much ab crunch as a lot of people do when I pose my figures, so I'm not really that bothered. It's a shame that they put the articulation there and then you can't use it, but I'm not angry about it.
No, nor me. I mean, I think it looks so good. Alley Viper he's a sore spot for me. He's the first one that came out of a package and I broke as soon as I started to pose him. His right arm just completely snapped off, which was kind of a drag. I did have 2, so I was happy, but you know, still kind of a drag. But yeah, Alley Viper is one that, like, that figure just looks so damn good.
It
So
it really does.
yeah,
And to all the people that don't like him, you know, that's great because it's a figure you can skip. But I get it, you know, the color, or maybe you started collecting, maybe you're sort of 82 to 86 and you'd like to your characters in that range, which is fair, which is fine. Everybody has their preferences and such, but bring on the neon for me. The Alley Viper is great. I'll take, you know, Ninja Force. I'll take the all the sort of neon redecos that came out in the 90s and stuff. Bring it on.
except for that V2 doll tone, man. Oof.
Bring it on. Aaron says Spirit has the tightest hips, even with heat and oil. I am scared to move them. Oh, that's mine has a janky ankle, but the hips are fine. So it seems to be fairly randomized which figures and such have issues, which is kind of nice in a way, because it means that it's not production runs that are problematic. It's units within those runs, I guess. Tyler says chunky are great for troop building, but officers need to be lean and slick. Do you agree? Steve, do you agree?
I do agree, Tyler.
I don't disagree. Agree might be stronger than I'm willing to go, only because when I look at you know, I could see a big chunky officer if it's sort of the right type of officer. Like, yeah, I don't know. I feel it's discriminatory towards chunky people if we say that they can't succeed to the status of an officer. I'm just kidding.
That's fair. That's fair.
Luke, I like when they have a vest. Modern soldiers always wear a bulletproof vest. For me, when they don't wear one, it's just not realistic. Luke, I have bad news for you. We're talking about soldiers with laser guns. I don't know, but I get your point. And I feel the same way insofar as I love the accessories. I love the vests. But that being said, right? Just pulling these guys up because they're still on my desk. One has a vest, one has sort of web gear harness. I think they both look fantastic.
They do.
I don't know. I don't set rules with my figures. I don't say, oh, if it doesn't have a vest, I don't like it, or if it does have a vest, I don't like it, or whatever. I guess what my feeling is that I'm open to all of them. I'm excited to see what comes out next. Vest, no vest, thick, thin, tall, short,
new hat,
whatever. Yeah, exactly. Aaron, other than that, other than the hips, the Spirit is my favorite Joe in design and color. I think a lot of people really like Spirit in terms of design and color. You get the eagle, you get really great accessories, you get a great character with a great bio, great backstory.
Yep.
I love that they released him with Storm Shadow, because in the Sunbow cartoon, they were always enemies. It wasn't Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow like it was in the comic books. It was Spirit and Storm Shadow. I think largely because Spirit could talk. I think putting Snake Eyes against Storm Shadow didn't translate on film, so to speak.
Storm Shadow is pretty quiet too. So I mean, if it was Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow in the cartoon, you know, it just would have been two guys staring at each other.
The occasional sword fight. That's about it.
Yeah.
Christian, I had a defective bat. Minor chest plate wouldn't fit on it. Hasbro replaced with a Cobra Infantry. Yes, so that's the issue with Hasbro replacements, is you don't always get a direct replacement. You get a value equivalent replacement, which is unfortunate. But if that happens, I'll just grab another Spirit when they come out, which should be soon enough. Officer doesn't need to be chunky, as he is in the rear with the gear, for sure. I get it. That makes sense. It's from sort of from a strategic perspective, I get that, you know, an officer or a higher ranking individual would not necessarily be on the front lines, but most of the Joes don't have vests.
True.
Just saying. I love them all, vest or no vest. Yes, Luke, I know you do. I just, as do I. Tyler, I guess we will see this debate of chunky versus slim grow when Crimson Guards land on shelves, because no vest on those guys. Although they're guards, so is that if you know, are they front line? There's always discussion, right? Like, are they sort of an internal last line of defense, or are they the vanguard? I guess it depends. I guess people's headcanon will determine, or sort of where you know, whether your lore came from Sunbow or the comic books or what have you.
Yeah, for me, Crimson Guard were always sleeper agents. They were always, you know, like the homegrown militia guys who just lived in suburban America and had their Crimson Guard uniform and rifle stashed in their closet, waiting for the call, you know.
Mm-hmm. All the Freds.
Yeah.
Well, that show and tell. We're 22 minutes in. Let's get into the news. We'll jump straight into this. I will try to set this up in such a way that it works when I pull it up. Forgive me, I feel so rusty. I'm so out of practice with this. But why did this not do what I wanted it to? Bear with me. I'm trying to get it to go full screen so you don't see all the random stuff that's going on here. I still got my slides from last week too, so that's gonna make this presentation look really unprofessional, which it really is. I mean, we're clearly very professional, and press escape to show controls. I want controls. I want to show this full screen so that it pops up a little bit cleaner and tidier. And it doesn't want to do it. So we're just going to do it like this. And I will... Nope, that's not what I want to do either. Oh, for heaven's sake, this is not... Click to add speaker notes. Can you see that on there? That's really exciting.
I can, yeah.
Anyway... So the first reveal was, you can even see, I like that you can even see that this isn't formatted properly. Like, you're not even looking at, see where it says click to add, like it's just, Anyway.
Trained professionals, don't try this at home.
Oh, man, if you did, you'd probably get a very similar result, but you might not. And now I can't control my, why won't, speak amongst yourselves. Steve, what did you think of these character reveals?
I thought they were both absolutely fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And well, Tunnel Rat, he's been since the 87 line. Tunnel Rat has been my number one. He's been my guy, and that just super excited me. I mean, I've posted on the page a million times just talking about Tunnel Rat, and I absolutely love that character. I loved how they handled him in the comic. I thought he was just such a cool character. The whole Cobra Island Civil War, hey, we got it. Like that storyline with him and stuff. And he seemed to be one of Hammer's go-tos. And I always just thought it was really cool. I didn't know about the connection until maybe 5 or 6 years ago. So, you know, it was a cool thing, right? But such a cool character.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Tunnel Rat was always one of my favorites. My opinion of Tunnel Rat has changed over the years too. When I again, you know, recently, not within the last couple months, but like within the last few years, realized that he was designed to be sort of the Larry Hama likeness, and it was designed after Larry Hama, and Larry Hama having fought in the Vietnam War, I believe.
Yep.
And he's not the only one. I mean, there are several figures in the G.I. Joe line that were styled after or sort of designed around characters that were in the design team or the writing team or what have you. And one thing that I never clued into, but has been pointed out to me by a few people recently, or people that I sort of found out later on that Tunnel Rat was their favorite figure is that he's mixed race.
Yeah.
I wasn't like, as a kid, yeah, he was, but I didn't think anything of it. You know, it's weird that as a white male in Canada, the idea of representation really meant nothing to me as a child. I think that's probably true of a lot of people, but it was interesting to find out that there was people that really loved Tunnel Rat or loved a particular character because he was a representation of who they were, and so that was, you know, I have an increased respect for Tunnel Rat in that respect,
for sure.
And again, you know, the figure, the character is amazing. Like, you and I, white males, both love this character. It speaks to sort of the how great the character and how great the figure is. Snow Job, you know, redheaded, pale, white male, maybe less of a representation for most people, but I guess redheads, you know, that shout out to the redheads that that love Snow Job and Outback, I guess, as that represented them.
Outback was another one for me. He was a huge one too. So, you know,
I love Outback. Yeah.
So stoked to see Outback as well. And like, especially in the classic design, so good.
It'll be interesting to see what we get with them. So I've said, and I keep saying, if we're getting Snow Job, I really hope that we get an Arctic Cobra figure, whether that is a Snow Serpent version 2, whether we get Destro in Arctic gear or Mixed Blood in Arctic gear or Cobra Commando in Arctic gear. I think all of those have actually appeared in figure form, so it wouldn't be unprecedented to see that. But
those nondescript gray jackets that they wore in the cartoon.
Well, for me, Snow Job is going to be a figure where I'm probably going to get multiples, because what I'm probably going to do with them is create a little Arctic team. Just pop Snow Job's head off, pop Snake Guy's head and Duke's head on, and away you go. You can set them up outside in the Canadian winter and have some fun.
Get some great pictures.
Big problem is, like, you get Snow Job and no other figures, and you're kind of just like, well, what do I do with this guy? Like, he doesn't. People complain that Barbecue doesn't fit on the shelf. What do you do with a guy in a parka
with skis?
With skis on his back. They're not water skis. I mean,
no. I think Snow Serpent, especially V1 Snow Serpent, I can't imagine how awesome that will look as a classified. V1 Snow Serpent, I think, would just be such a gorgeous figure. It would be chunky.
I just had to bring this one up because Hervé said that Dr. Opal, Bongo the Bear's father, was a chunky Crimson Guard in the comics.
He was.
So maybe, you know, SQCC exclusive a couple years down the line, we get Bongo the Bear plus, you know, Dr. Chunky Crimson Guard with an alternate Dr. Opal head.
Maybe a Bongo the Balloon Bear van.
People are shouting for it. People want it. And that's it. It's funny to me what people really are demanding that they see in figure form. That's not really on my list at all. It would be funny. It would be like a great little nod to the content, but you know, apart from the people that want it for that reason, would it sell? Like, is there a market? Like, would a kid see that on a show? And now you get into the debate of, you know, kids aren't buying the line or whatever. I get it, whatever.
Yeah, I think reaction. I think you could see it in reaction.
I absolutely think you could see it in reaction, and I think that's where we will see it if we see it. I don't think we'll see that even in like the Ultimates, like the 6.5 to 7 inch scale Super 7 Ultimates line. I think if we see it, reaction line will be where it could be, which I don't mind, because all the vintage guys and all the guys that are still into the 4-inch stuff, it'll scale with those. So you could still, it would still fit in with your existing collection if you wanted to go that route.
Definitely.
Dean has joined us. Good day. Sorry I'm late. Did we discuss the Ninja already and I missed it? No, we haven't gotten past this news. This news item. We're 30 minutes in. But maybe that's a good segue. These characters are coming. I think these are going to be a great addition to the line. I think most people, if not all, are very excited to see these. And I am one of those people. I'm very excited for both of these. Insofar as there's a reluctance with Snow Job, but if they give us sort of more Arctic stuff, my reluctance will immediately disappear. But let's get into the ninja. So we have the Ninja 2-pack, the Blue Ninjas 2-pack. We have Kamakura, both Amazon.com exclusives. The ninjas did pop up on .ca. I don't know if they are still available. I did not check this morning. As of yesterday evening, they were both still available. Steve, what are your initial thoughts on these? Did you order one? Did you order both? Did you order multiples?
Only one. I ordered one. I like the designs. I like what they did with like the Akiko body and the red ninja, or the red ninja. But just the naming choice and stuff is odd to me. Like just Blue Ninjas. Like it seems really nondescript. It seems really just kind of filler. You know, Night Creepers or Cobra Ninja Viper, or you know, it just seemed really just nondescript to me. The figure designs, and I like I said, I thought they looked cool, but again, like it just kind of. I think I need to get the figures in my hands and make better determination just based on the pictures and the diorama shots. I was kind of like, yeah, they look fine, they look okay, but I think, you know, I just, as ninjas, I think they're going to be awesome, but you know, where are they going to fit on my shelf with all the other Cobras? You know, like, where am I going to put them?
Yeah. It's a valid point, and I think for a lot of people, this is maybe the point where they start skipping releases, and I can relate to that. I love ninjas, and Snake Eyes is my favorite character. I love Storm Shadow. I love that dynamic. I love the Arashikage stuff. I love the lore, and I love all that kind of stuff.
Ditto.
I'm into the ninjas. I ordered both. I ordered both the ninjas and Kamakura. They're not my favorite figures, but my opinion is also, if I don't order them, I don't want to be that guy that has to sort of track one down after they're released.
Yeah.
And we all know how this line can be if you are chasing a figure and you can't get it at retail. So I that was essentially the reason that I ordered them. I think they look fantastic, but I completely agree that do we need more ninjas? Now, Kamakura is different because Kamakura is a unique character, and we'll get a little bit more into that when we get to Kamakura. But the Blue Ninjas, yeah, it does. It does sort of, you know, it's repaints, it's redecos. These are ones that really speak to that sort of, you're just repainting it and releasing it to try to reuse a mold. They do come with the Oni head and the Kitsune head, which I really love.
Yeah, they're cool.
If they didn't come with those, I may very likely have passed on them, but this does give a little bit of opportunity to get something different. The weapons are also painted. So a couple of these weapons we've gotten before, but they weren't painted, and then they're in different colors. So these look to be like a dark gray, whereas we've got most of these in black before. I like the accessories. The Red Ninja is a great figure, so the Blue Ninja, I don't have a problem with. I love that Akiko figure, so getting a reuse of that mold I think is fantastic. I don't know that these are going to be on my shelf all the time. I think these might be sort of a when I set up a dojo battle kind of thing. They
ninja diorama.
They may come out of a bin sort of thing. But they look fantastic, and I'll be happy to get them. And those alternate heads, I think those alternate heads are pretty awesome. I mean, it's interesting that they did something a little bit different, a little bit unique. There's not really, to the best of my knowledge, any sort of reference in the media for these ones, whether it's comic books or cartoons or anything like that. So this is somewhat just them doing something new, something original, something interesting. I think the Red Ninja kind of has some reference points in the comic.
He does. He does for sure.
Has virtually nothing. So this is in a way like the first original character, although I use the term loosely because they're troop builders, that they're sort of releasing in the line.
So are they going to do any other primary colors next? Are they going to do like a green ninja or?
So next they'll do. So you could use Storm Shadow as a white ninja, right? And then we've got red and we've got blue.
There we go.
So we'll get a black ninja and a female yellow ninja and a female pink ninja.
Oh dear.
and then you can have a classified Power Rangers shelf. But I thought that I had a very similar thought. There is that sort of blue turquoise ninja in the vintage line. There's black in the vintage stuff. You could do more of them, and I wouldn't be mad.
No, nor me.
Is already Snake Eyes with this mold, but you could do Storm Shadow in a black deco, and I'd be happy with that. So. Tyler, just look, Blue Ninja are still up on Amazon, tagged as a bestseller, which is a good sign. Yeah, it's absolutely. I mean, it's great that this brand is got the appeal. Now, whether that's just people buying up 10 of them thinking that they'll be able to resell them or not, we don't know. Although I think every time Amazon's had a figure, it's been a bestseller for at least a minute. So
definitely.
Eric says, I love that they added a female ninja. Yes, I do too. More female figures, the better for me. So that's another reason that I got these, is because it adds to the number of female figures that I have on the shelf. Dean, huge ninja fan here. The original red ninja I didn't like when it was released because it's not a real American hero red ninja or a night creeper, but instead a cross of both.
It definitely is.
Yeah, and that was I would have much rather. Steve, you mentioned it too. The Night Creeper. Night Creeper is a great figure, and I still hope we get that sooner rather than later. We saw the Night Creeper in those weird kind of $15.
I had one in my hand last week and almost pulled the trigger. I almost left with it, and I was looking through it, and I don't think it'll go on the shelf with the classifieds. Like I just don't think it would mesh, so I put it back.
They scale a little bit smaller, and that plastic looks like $15 plastic.
It's very much that shoddy, 90s Toy Biz hand painted look.
This is a very good point. Bring on Jinx.
Hell yeah.
They could reuse this mold one more time, and I wouldn't be mad. I wouldn't be mad at all for that reuse. For two reasons. It's a great mold, and Jinx is a great character.
Awesome character.
And I think it would be, in a really good red, and if they put the logos and stuff on it, the dragons, I think it would look distinct enough. Like when you look at this Blue Ninja, we know it's a Kiko, but it doesn't look like a Kiko because they've used the colors differently. So the where they use color breaks aren't the same on this figure as they were on a Kiko, which allows what is effectively almost head to toe. It's got different feet.
Different feet, yeah. I was going to say it doesn't have the heels. It's not fighting in heels.
That was my only complaint about that Akiko figure, is those heels. But I mean, what can you do? If that's how she likes to fight, who am I to tell her otherwise?
You can't judge.
Yeah, exactly. The Blue Ninja in the War Part Bats in the. Whoa, hold on, I'm gonna have to read this. Sorry, Dean. Sorry. In the Transformers line, they often release the mold you don't want before they do the one they intend to do. This makes more sense as a mind bender built ninja. Okay, so you're talking about like the robot ninjas that they had, I think is what he's alluding to there.
Okay.
Toon Doctor Hervé says the Red Ninja first appeared in the famous silent issue G.I. Joe number 21. Yes, they were sort of Storm Shadow's little sidekicks, but they were in sort of the more traditional ninja gear. They didn't have they didn't have this more tactical look, which is I think what people wanted. I think that was sort of the original complaint about the Red Ninja, and
very plain.
I didn't mind it at all. I looked at it as that they had the Storm that they had the Snake Eyes mold, and they just wanted to really quickly reuse that mold, and they look fantastic. The addition of the different sort of harness collar neck piece And then the belt, I thought, made them look distinct enough. And again, with the color blocking, I thought they looked fantastic. I have 3 of them on the shelf behind me. So
there's a great Red Ninja design in the early hundreds of the old Marvel. When Firefly first makes his comeback, and you find out Firefly is actually a ninja and all that stuff,
right?
Which I won't comment on, but there's some really cool. Andy Wildman, I think, was the artist, and there were some really cool Red Ninja designs there. Like they were armored up, they were a little bit more chunky.
Mm-hmm. So you prefer them chunky?
I do. I like the look of the
chunky
Red
ninjas.
Ninja figure.
Is your preference?
Yeah, I there's something about that Red Ninja figure, and the pictures I found didn't really do it justice. But when I got it in my hand and I started posing it and putting the accessories in and stuff, man, look, that's a great figure. That is such a cool figure. It sticks out in the line. Like, you know, you put it on the Cobra shelf, and I don't know entirely that it fits with all the other guys, but similar issue I have, you know.
So like this is sort of my Cobra shelf, and then I have my Red Ninjas here.
Yeah.
Because I'm the same way. It's like it just doesn't. They to me they're sort of, you know, maybe they're in a different Cobra base or you know, the Silent Castle or something like that. Like they just don't. I don't feel like they would engage the same enemies.
Yeah. You wouldn't have them just in a mass of Cobra troopers, you know? Like
no, I mean, for one, they don't have firearms at all. They just have blades. So it would be like that Indiana Jones scene, right? The guy with the sword, and he just pulls out his pistol and shoots him. That it would be
Silly a quick ninjas battle. Brought a knife to a gunfight.
Exactly. I apologize, guys, if I skip over your comment. It may be either because I've sort of answered this in what we've said, or we've moved on, or I've just missed it. So forgive me if I missed your comment. Feel free to message me or something later with vent your anger. Tyler says, okay, could they use this mold of female ninja, mash it another female figure, and give us brand new Jinx? Thoughts? Yes, absolutely.
Hell yeah.
I don't even think that they have to really mash it with anything else. I think this mold looks fantastic, and I think it's a really great sort of updated look for Jinx, because Jinx just had that very basic look to the original vintage figure. I think this one looks a little more refined, a little bit more elaborate. And I think they could very easily just reuse this mold almost entirely with just a different head.
Yep.
Now, if they do that, and we'll get to this a little bit when we get to Kamakura, but if they go that route, they've now used this mold twice. It'll be the third time that they use that mold. I think that when you're using a mold for the third time, we deserve a masked and unmasked head.
Definitely.
Because you could effectively use that head as the masked head and just sort of get rid of the Cobra logo and paint the eyes, and that could be your masked Jinx head. But then I would want an unmasked Jinx head as well. That would be the only thing I would ask for Jinx, is use this mold exactly, but just give us a masked and unmasked head. And feel free to just repaint that blue female ninja head and just give us an original sculpt for the unmasked.
How about a hood?
And a hood. Yeah, they seem to love adding hoods to ninja. Arctic Assault Storm Shadow had a hood. Storm Shadow has a hood. Kamakura has a hood. If you're a ninja, you need a hood.
Hoods and scarves. They love hoods and scarves.
Yeah, exactly.
I do too, so it works.
Dean says, I love the accessories so much. Yeah, the loadout on these is pretty great, and I agree that you're kind of buying it for the accessories. And which brings us to Kamakura. Plenty of accessories, I would say. And, you know, he's got here's the packaging. We'll come back to this in a minute. I used the wrong packaging photo, but I'll explain what I mean by that in a moment. We get the unmasked as well as the masked head. We get a pretty decent loadout for weapons. We get a masked and unmasked head, which is why I say we should probably get that for future figures going forward. I like that we're getting a character that was essentially a new character in the Devil's Due comic. He was later in the line. He's not in the Sunbow. He's not in the Sunbow cartoon. He's not in the original Marvel run. I think there's reference to him in the original Marvel run, if I'm not mistaken, because he existed. But as far as as Kamakura, the character, that's a Devil's Due creation. He was then sort of brought back in the IDW comic as Throwdown. He is, of course, Sean Collins. He is the son of a Crimson Guard. Rashikage trained, lots of lore, lots of backstory, lots of bio, but from a much later period in the sort of narrative of G.I. Joe. I feel like a lot of people don't like that they did Kamakura. I also think a lot of people don't like that they did this as a deluxe figure. Steve, what are your thoughts on this guy? Did you order Kamakura?
I did. I ordered Kamakura. I like that they're going to the Devil's Due stuff. I like that they're drawn from those books. I think it's pretty cool. I think it, up to now, there's been so much fan service. I'll call it what it is. There's been so much fan service to the old 80s Real American Hero people like myself, but there hasn't been a lot of love for the later era, like the later period. And I mean, Devil's Due, love it or hate it, it was a direct continuation when it was originally released. When Reinstated came out, I mean, it was supposed to pick up right where the Marvel series left off. I mean, I know Hama wasn't involved and whatnot, but there were some cool characters came out of that. I'd like to see a few more of them. Like, I'd love to see Zartan's daughter. I don't remember her name; it escapes me. But Zanya, maybe, yeah. But her design was great. Her design was so cool, right? Like, there's a few characters from that era that I would like to see pop up for sure.
There's definitely so for those of you that watch the Full Force podcast with group member and friend of the show, friend of the group, friend of mine, Chris McLeod. He calls it the core character hump. So they have to kind of bang out all the characters that are the highest in demand, the most iconic, stuff like that, because it makes sense for the brand, right? The recognition of the brand is in Snake Eyes, Duke, Cobra Commander, Zartan, right? Like, they have to cover those characters first. I've said before, and I'll say again, I love when they do the updated version. So I don't like that they kind of course corrected to go more vintage accurate. I still want Joe Pros on all of them. I want some of that updated, more modern technical stuff on the figures. If they keep them vintage inspired, I'm okay with that. If they're the same colors and they came with the same, weapons loadout and stuff like that, that's fine. But update some of the stuff. But I agree with you in that I love that they're doing Kamakura because he comes from Devil's Due. I want more character designs, that are sort of more updated. Like, I want them to start pushing the boundaries of this being a line that's happening now. The nostalgia thing is great, but once you run out of those characters, then it kind of ends, right? Because the guys that'll only buy the ones that look like they're vintage figures are already complaining about there's so much complaining already that it kind of, like, it doesn't matter. I mean, like,
there is this thing called the internet, and people use it to complain constantly.
Who knew? But my complaint with this one, and I do have one complaint, my sole complaint with this is the deluxe figure sort of name that they've put it on, the label that they've put it on it, to effectively justify a price increase of about $10 over a standard price figure.
Yeah.
Now, when I look at this figure objectively, he's got new knees, new shins, a new head, new forearm on the one side, not on the other side. All the accessories are reuse. The torso is reuse. Like, there's not enough new tooling in this, and there's not enough accessories in this for me to really sort of get on board with that deluxe title that they've given it.
Yeah, I don't disagree there.
I ordered it. And I don't think the price is outrageous. I don't think it's, I don't think it's in the range of sort of outlandish for the figure. And so I have to qualify me saying that complaint by saying I did order it, and I'm happy to, but I'm not going to be ordering multiples of it. And I just, I don't know what makes this a deluxe figure.
It's so weird that they have this new kind of middle ground between your basic classified and, like, the Zartan, Master of Disguise Zartan.
Rockmaster.
Yeah, and Crockmaster or Snake Eyes and Timber, like that range. It seems so strange to me that they would have another step up in between that. And like you say, what really differentiates it? Yeah, there's a few accessories there, but there were a few accessories with the Red Ninja as well. So
and that's a good point, right? Like, because when I look at other figures, I don't mind reuse. I have no problem with reuse, because
not at all.
They're sort of maximizing the cost effectiveness of the molds. Like I said earlier, the Red Ninja was effectively Snake Eyes with a new shoulder piece, the new belt, a new head sculpt, a completely unique head sculpt. The weapons loadout was essentially the 00 Hasbro Pulse Snake Eyes weapons loadout. So they were reusing that. So in terms of tooling, there wasn't a ton of new tooling, but there's not a ton of new tooling in this. The argument they made with, if any of you guys are Black Series guys, the argument that they make with every version of Boba Fett is the amount of paint apps. The paint deco is what puts that figure into a deluxe figure category, and it's because there's so many hits of paint that just increases the production cost. I'm very closely looking at this guy, trying to figure out if there's more than like 10 hits of paint on this figure.
No.
So that doesn't justify it. That's my complaint. Great figure. I love that he's in the line. I love the figure, the character, on and on and on. I don't like that Hasbro is calling this a deluxe figure. They've essentially alluded to Snow Job being a deluxe figure. Does that just mean that Snow Job is just going to be more expensive for what it is? I don't get what makes this deluxe. I just don't get it.
He just looks like another classified figure to me. He just looks like, basic.
Same size box. Same, like everything about it is the same. I don't get it. I wonder if it was an Amazon thing. I wonder if Amazon was like, we need a deluxe figure, and they're like, well, we have this figure, and they're like, okay, great, call it deluxe.
And I mean, very well could be. Very well.
I don't know. It doesn't say deluxe on the box. It's the same size box. There's no window on the box.
That's the new packaging, the plasticless packaging.
I don't mind this. It's an Amazon exclusive. They're going to ship it from a warehouse. I'm never going to see it. I'm never going to be able to look at the paint apps. I'm never going to know whether somebody swapped the figure or not. If they do, I'll just contact Amazon and say, give me a new one. I don't know why people complain about that, but people are fair to, make your complaints. I feel like the sample size for those issues actually occurring is tiny. We'll get to this in a moment. I just wanted to see if I had more stuff there. I don't know. The deluxe thing doesn't land well with me, but the figure looks great, and I'm looking forward to it. I think it also said, so this one said like October, but I think the Blue Ninja said August. So it's
August and September, I think, was the dates on Amazon.
August and September, yeah. So we could see these before the end of the year, before we know it. I think some of the scheduling is starting to catch up. I think some of the delivery dates are starting to catch up, which is good news. I think we would love to have. I'd love to have figures in hand every couple of months, or even every month, if that's possible.
Give me a wave every quarter. I'm happy with a wave every quarter.
You know what? I'm honestly the same way, and I've been saying that for a long time. If it's 5-figure waves too, and we get them quarterly, so that's 20 figures per year in the standard release. That's not including if they do Target releases and Walmart releases and exclusive San Diego Comic-Con and Hasbro PulseCon and
you're like your Zartans and your Mind Benders.
Right. So, I mean, if we're getting 20, somebody doing lawn work there?
Next door, I think, yep.
Like, it's not here. I don't
but no, it's not there.
20 figures plus whatever waves we're getting as exclusives. We could be looking at 30 figures per year. I mean, that's so many figures. Yep. The line kicked off in 2020 with 00 Snake Eyes. We've seen, however many waves we've seen now, and we're effectively about 2 years, because when wave 1 landed was about June of 2020. It was sort of announced and released a little bit earlier than that. It was announced at New York Toy Con or whatever.
Expo.
Which is in February. They announced it. But I sort of look at when figures landed as sort of when it really kicked off. But if we say February, June, it's somewhere in the middle there. Kamakura is figure number 61. That's
crazy. That's actually crazy.
61 in what is effectively 2 years. And people, there's people that want more, and I don't know what they do for a living, but I feel like I want their job, because if you've got more money than you know what to do with, I suppose. You're demanding more. I mentioned previously too, I love repaints, because I love that if a repaint comes out, you can effectively pass on that figure. And this is definitely one of those sort of situations where it's a repaint in a way, but it's clearly a unique character. And like I said, we're at figure 61 in the line. I wish there was more fat that I could trim out of my collection. I'm going 61, man.
I guess part of it with me is it's the only thing I'm really following is the classified stuff. So, give me that junky hit, give me that fix. I'm A-okay with it. I'm running down the checklist. Like I'm collecting it just like I did the old '80s line with. If the box has a number on it, I've probably got to have it. So, it's brutal.
Yeah, I mean, I don't consider myself a completist. I don't consider myself somebody that feels compelled to buy any of these figures or any of these characters. And yet, here we are, 61 figures in, and I haven't passed on anything.
I haven't done Python Patrol yet.
Neither have I. Python Patrol, if it shows up at Toys R Us in Kelowna here, I'll buy it, and otherwise I'm not buying Python Patrol. I keep saying that, and I'm going to hold true to that. The reasoning for that is twofold. I don't necessarily need Python Patrol, and if I can't find it, then I sort of have an excuse for not having it. On top of that, it gives me a reason to still hunt a little bit, right? Like I to find them in the wild makes it a little bit more fun. And because we're ordering everything, online, initially when this wave came out, I was one of those guys that still didn't buy anything online. I would still physically go and buy everything in store, because there's a magic to it. There is. I will not deny that there is a little bit more of there's a little bit more of a rush. You get the endorphins kick in a little bit stronger, when you physically find it on the shelf, because there's always a little bit of anticipation. There's a little more excitement. There's electricity in the air. Will I find it? Won't I find it? And some of that is lost when, I message Mike the day before any releases come out, and I say, hey, Mike, whatever comes out tomorrow, put me down for one of each. But
it was just with me, and that was what got me started, was the local Toys R Us. A buddy of mine worked at Toys R Us in receiving, and he got the first Cobra Island wave in, and I had seen the original wave, and I was like, do I want to get these? I think I do. And then I heard about the Cobra Island stuff and how hard it was going to be. Like, it was Target exclusive. I said, okay, well, forget it. I'm not going to bother. I'm not going to get into this at all. And then, Dave messages me. He's like, you still looking at those new G.I. Joe figures? We just got a bunch of stuff in. And he sends me a picture, and it's everything. It's the Cobra Island Trooper, it's Beachhead, it's Baroness. And I was like, I'll be there in 15 minutes, Dave. Like, and then that was it then, right?
I would just like to point out that your friend that works at Toys R Us is the origin of the myth that like Toys R Us employees are buying all up for themselves.
No, I got to say, our local store, when the Firefly and Major Blood, like that wave hit, I went, I got a message, and I went in, and there were 5 or 6 guys from the G.I. Joe Collectors Club Canada. I think they may be in Northern Outpost as well, and they looked after us, man. They were so awesome, and like, there was never any. It didn't feel like preferential treatment or like they were stashing them out back for their buddies. Like, it was never anything like that. It was just they had enough come in that they looked after us, which was great.
I've had the same experience at my local Toys R Us, and I wasn't friends with them before. I just, that's where I was buying a lot of my toys, and I would see them all the time. And when this line came out, I said, hey, if you guys sort of come across this stuff,
let me know.
Well, no, it was actually, now that I think of it, it wasn't that scenario. It was sort of like I was going literally every day to sort of see if they got new G.I. Joes. And eventually they were kind of like, hey, why are you here every day? And I was like, well, I'm hoping that I get here when you guys get a shipment of G.I. Joes. And they said, oh, we only get shipments on these days, so don't bother coming any of the other days. And I said, oh, okay, thanks. And then sort of out of that little interaction, I started chatting with them, and we kind of became friends is maybe too strong of a word, because, we're not going out for dinner or drinks or anything like that. But now it's to the point where, just like your buddy at Toys R Us there, when new stuff comes in, they usually set aside one of each for me. And then I pop in and they go, hey, did you get these ones yet? And I usually go, yeah, but I'll take them anyway because I know somebody that didn't. And then I sort of send them off to somebody else. But just quickly looking at a couple of these comments that we've just sort of glossed over. Dean says, I haven't ordered them yet just because because I don't know what this costs Canadian, and I don't see the accessories adding up the price when I have them all ready. Yes, and I agree with that. I totally agree with that. And I think it's kind of one of those characters too, where I think people might be on the fence. There's nothing. I gotta say the sort of essentially plain green deco, like it doesn't jump off the shelf at you either. Like, no. If you weren't a G.I. Joe fan and you didn't know who Kamakura was, I could see this figure easily being one that people will pass on. It'll be interesting to see once it's released and it starts getting into people's hands. Definitely going to start polling and sort of see, okay, how many people actually grabbed this guy and how many people didn't. This might be the first figure that people don't really buy into in a big way, but we will see.
I think for reference, mine, the pre-order, I believe, was about $46 or somewhere between $46, $47 US.
Mm-hmm.
So, not cheap.
No, for what is effectively, like we've discussed, just a normal classified figure. That was the kicker. Like, and that's the thing. If this had had a better, if this had had a deluxe loadout, or if this had been a standard priced figure, I think either one or the other, people would have loved this figure. But I think the complaints lie in a higher price for a very similar product. But anyway, speaking of high priced similar product, HasLab, it's still out there. We're still sort of in limbo. We all know it's coming. We don't know what it's going to be. Steve, is it going to be a HISS tank?
Hot insider tip. It's going to be a USS flag, and it's going to be the size of a Kia Sorento.
And it's going to be $11,000.
Yeah, thereabouts.
US.
And it's going to come with 14 figures.
But
I think HISS tank.
But all going to be deck hands.
Oh, they're going to, just take hands, just like old school shipwreck uniform.
Yeah, exactly. Same head sculpt.
Yep.
It's like 11 of the same heads, like the same figure. They won't even bother. I don't know what to think. I'm of two minds with the HasLab. The HasLab stuff is expensive. If it's a his tank, I would love for it to be a his tank and something else. In the modern line, they did a couple of the 2-pack. So they did the, I think the his tank came with a vamp or whatever it came with, and they did, like you get 2 vehicles and 2 figures in the modern in a cool. I mean, those boxes were gigantic because
they were awesome.
It was like a posed out diorama inside a box, and you pick it up. You just imagine a kid picking that up and being like, "Whoa!" It's like it's really happening in this box. I would love for it to be 2 because then I think the price point can be a little bit more justifiable. I mentioned this when our good friend Chris was doing his live video yesterday, his weekly video. I said I really want the perceived value to line up with whatever price point they release this at.
Yep.
And what I mean by that is if you just get a his tank. They just released that Walmart retro his tank, and it was $40. If you just do a 6-inch scaled his tank, people's short-term memories are going to think about that $40 his tank, and they're going to go, "Why is this his tank $300?"
Yeah. I think the his too. Like, I mean, it's an iconic vehicle. It's a good choice, but I think it's kind of at that scale, at the 6-inch scale. I think it's going to be kind of plain. I think it's going to be kind of, unless they really retool it a bit. I don't know. I'd love for it to be a vamp. That would be.
So would I.
That would be amazing.
And I'll tell you why in a minute. But just because I have it in front of me, I have a modern vamp right here. It's not that big.
No.
And it's kind of like it's a shoebox on a tread. Like there's not a ton to it. I would say that it is probably the most iconic Cobra vehicle. I don't know, the Stun might be the next closest thing.
Or the Rattler, but I mean you can't do a Rattler.
They can't do a Rattler. That's the discussion always comes up, and you mentioned flag. Facetiously, I'm sure. I don't think you expect that there's going to be a flag. I don't expect that there's going to be a flag. I would go so far as to say that I am absolutely certain there will not be a flag. They're not going to do a Sky Striker. They're not going to do a Night Raven. They're not going to do a Rattler. They're not going to do a Conquest. I don't think they can do anything that's that big. I think that his tank is about as big a scale as you're probably going to get.
Yep.
Just sort of, I have a Sky Striker next to a his tank right next to me. If you're wondering why I keep looking over my shoulder, I'm just sort of looking at the scale of vintage vehicles. There's a threshold where I think it just gets too big. I just don't think that there's a market for it because I think the HasLab sail barge is sort of an exception, but the sail barge is really long and very narrow. So it kind of fits on a shelf. As soon as you start getting wider and longer, you run into the issue of like, okay, you got to build a coffee table, or like, what do you do with this? Like, what do you physically do with this stuff when you get it? The his tank, I have no issue with the his tank being the HasLab classified, the first of the HasLab classified projects. I would love to see this be sort of one of the lower price point HasLabs. Yeah. Did you back the HasLab? Is it called Hero Quest?
Yep.
That was about $120, was it not?
That was just over 200 all in. I did the Mythic tier.
That much.
Yeah, It was just over 200 after shipping and like Mythic tier, so you get the the exclusive expansion and stuff like that.
So, but you're talking. Oh, so that's Canadian. Like that was your landed cost.
That was my landed cost. Yeah.
I think it was like $130 US on Hasbro Pulse for like, when you hit add to cart, it was like $130.
Yeah, 139, I think. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
My hope is that that's what we get if we get, just a his tank.
His tank and driver. Give it to me for $140. Yep.
Perfect.
Yep.
with stretch goals, you know, you're gonna see you're gonna see sort of the value add there for sure. I like, you know, the idea of the 2-pack for me is more like, okay, if they're going to hit the 200 plus, if they're going to creep towards $300, I can't justify one vehicle at that price point.
Yeah. I wanted that Sky Striker so bad. I was into the Sky Striker, and I wasn't working at the time. I was on unemployment, so it was, you know, like, it was tight, and it was leading into Christmas, and I was like, why are you guys doing this time of year? You know, like, why are you doing it?
3 HasLabs at one time.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't know what was going on behind the scenes for that moment in time for those guys.
Yes, because they had a Ghostbusters one or something too, didn't they?
Mm-hmm. They had the Rancor, they had the Sky Striker, and they had the Proton Pack all at once during PulseCon.
Yeah,
which
that was.
I get. It's PulseCon. It's kind of like Q4. They're trying to get, you know, end of the year numbers up. Like, there's a whole bunch of things going on there. The Rancor was actually one of the design team guy, or one of the marketing team guys, like, let that slip in a podcast that he did or something like that. So like, it kind of forced their hand. I feel bad for all the Black Series guys that really wanted that.
Yeah, because that didn't fund after, did it?
Lightsaber. It did. The Rancor did not fund.
Yeah, that sucks.
It got closer than I think a lot of people thought it might right at the end. But right at the end, people also started jumping ship. So the number actually started going back down right before it ended. When people realized, I don't think people understand that it's not like a GoFundMe. Like, your money's not locked in.
No.
If they don't fund, they just give you you know, you don't get charged. But I think it was anyway. But yeah, the HasLab, the His Tank 2 is problematic for me, because to me, like, the His Tank, you can't put a trailer on it.
No.
I mean, that could be a stretch goal that you could get, like the missile system, or you could get one of the various kind of trail behind Cobra things. I've heard people say the Asp. I think the Asp is too big, but I also don't think of a His Tank as pulling a trailer. Like, it just doesn't.
It's a tank.
It's just a tank. I don't know. I will be interested to see, you know, what we get. We're getting another Instagram live this coming Wednesday, which I suspect will probably go the route that the last couple Instagram lives have gone. You know, not a huge amount of news, a couple character reveals, pipeline reveals, maybe a couple pre-orders, and Lenny and Emily just sort of chatting, which I'm all for. I like it. I enjoy that they're sort of interacting with the fandom. They're interacting with consumers as such, and I don't need every week to have
pre-orders and
revealed
package reveals. Yeah,
it's kind of nice to just have, like, weeks where we get some fun stuff, but it's not costing me anything. I think the HasLab will land right at the end. So, you know, June ends, I think, on a Thursday. And so Wednesday, the second to last day of June, I think, is when we're going to get the big reveal of the HasLab. I think we might also get something for, you know, mind benders out there, right? EB Games. It popped up on EB Games.
Yep.
GameStop. Sorry, it's not EB Games anymore, but popped up on GameStop. A few of us were lucky enough to get a pre-order in for that. The date was changed from the original date to July 1st.
Yep.
I suspect that it will come out on July 1st. I could be wrong. I'm optimistically hoping that July 1st is correct. I think when they changed the date, when they realized it was wrong, it would be weird to me that they would change it to another wrong date. It is sort of my logic behind that argument.
The big thing with GameStop/EB, and I mean, former employee talking, but when it comes to action figures and toys in the GameStop system, those dates are a weather forecast. You know, those are definitely not chiseled in stone, especially where, like, I know the Black Series stuff was always really unpredictable, and the NECA stuff was always there was NECA stuff in our system that was a year late. You know, so it's not something that you can set your watch to for sure.
Just getting into the comments here, going back a bit, James, I skipped on the Blue Ninjas and pre-ordered Kamakura. So 1 out of 2. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people might do that because he is a named character, and it's sort of one character, whereas the Blue Ninja is a nondescript troop builder. So if it is a his tank, I am ordering 2.
Fantastic.
I don't think you're going to be the only one. I think a lot of people are of that mindset. And I think a lot of people are of the mindset that they want it to be I'm of the mindset that I want it to be a lower price point because I would love to be able to order 2. I won't be able to if the price point doesn't allow it. I might not be able to order 1 if the price point doesn't allow it, because I wouldn't be able to justify it, because I'll essentially be looking at what can I get somebody to 3D print an upscaled 6-inch scaled one. And sort of how does that sort of relate to what I'm going to pay for this thing? The stretch goals will be very interesting. I'm really curious to see what the stretch goals are. Like I said, I'm still hoping it's 2 vehicles, but if it's just a his tank, I'm curious to see what stretch goals they might have. Larry mentioned that was the issue with the Black Series TIE Fighter. It was too big. That's a massive. I mean, it's a massive vehicle. There's no way to make it small. It's not streamlined. It's not like it is 2 plates with a ball in the center, and you can't really maneuver it to sort of make it small. I mean, some things.
How do you display that?
Exactly. I think a lot of people bought a piece of plexiglass and put it on top, and it was a coffee table. You didn't have to build a coffee table because that one was already pre-designed for that. But I mean, a his tank, a vamp, an awe striker, a stun. The list goes on of sort of those medium, mid-sized vehicles that I think are in a 6-inch scale still manageable. The outlier that I've heard that I could see them doing this, because I think scale wise it works. I mentioned the sail barge. You could do a Tomahawk, which is sort of the troop carrying helicopter, because it would be fairly long and not terribly wide, so you could still sort of put that one on a shelf. But we will see. Tristan says could be lower price. The HasLab Victory Saber was under 200 US before shipping, etc. Yeah, so they've done HasLab projects sub $200. Fingers crossed. Stretch goal wise, Retro Cobra Commander with optional hood as a stretch goal.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, they've kind of said, now I don't know if the current version of Classified, I've not heard anybody from Hasbro actually come out and say we're not doing a hooded Cobra Commander, but the prevailing knowledge suggests that they will never do a hooded Cobra Commander ever again.
There was definitely something said, yeah. There was definitely some comment.
Do you know the backstory behind why?
I think just kind of negative connotations.
It's kind of hearsay, but based on the testimony of people that were in the room at the time.
Yep.
Lorenzo Bonaventura, the much maligned movie executive behind all of the failed G.I. Joe movies, and I largely attribute it to him. He, in the very first, when they were going through ideas for what to do with Cobra Commander, and somebody said, oh, well, we'll have him in the helmet. We also want to do scenes with him in the hood, because that's, the vintage figure. He's still in the comic with the hood. So he still exists, like in present day G.I. Joe lore with a hood. Lorenzo Bonaventura, who knows nothing about G.I. Joe, clearly. I resent that guy is in charge of G.I. Joe movies, because I look, there's a lot of people that make a movie, but if the guy who's backing the thing says we're not doing a hooded Cobra Commander, he clearly doesn't get what it's about. Nope. He effectively said, like, oh, we can't have a hooded guy because it's like it's Klan, right?
Yep.
And everybody was like, yeah, but he's a terrorist, and it's blue, and it has a Cobra logo, and it's not funky, and it's like, it's all of these things, but he's the money guy, so everybody kind of went, okay. And that was it. That's the last time we've seen Hasbro do anything licensed that was sort of hooded, apart, like I said, from the comic book. I do believe that he's still been in the comic book with a hood.
Yeah, and I'd heard that they took that, and I think Hasbro kind of made it a directive with the toys as well. I think they kind of said that they want to get away from the
Hasbro again. Hasbro is a mega billion-dollar corporation, and so it's not up to the people, you know, that like us are massive fans to make those decisions.
Yep.
Which is unfortunate, because I think you're probably right. I think there's probably somebody in a board meeting that has effectively vetoed any hooded Cobra Commander, which is to me unfortunate, because it's an iconic design, it's an iconic look for him, and I think adds options for what they can do with that character. But
definitely does.
I think, you know, Tristan, you bring it up, retro Cobra Commander with optional hood. Sorry, I'm bringing this back up because sort of the sort of continuation of tying HasLab to a hooded Cobra Commander. If we would ever get one, I could see it being in HasLab. But the same sort of went with the Rancor and Ula. Hasbro has effectively said that they will never do Slave Leia, they will never do Ula, they will never do the sort of bikini-clad women of Star Wars. Again, I think it's from the higher ups. I don't begrudge them for that stance. I get it in the current sort of social political climate. It's a business decision that they've made. It's clearly a business decision. It's clearly not based on an understanding of the intellectual property. It's not based on an understanding of the fandom, for sure. But it is what it is.
I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's a business, and you know, if you want these figures on shelves at Walmart or Target, you know, or Toys R Us or wherever, there's certain things that, you know, they don't want to skirt controversy there, you know, like, so I mean, it's not even about it being problematic or being perceived poorly at the get-go. It's that if we put this on a shelf, who's to say that someone is not going to perceive this poorly or not gonna, you know, they have to be conscious of that. They really do, right?
And sorry, I pulled this up and it didn't mention it. The hood is like Gun Megatron. Not going to happen in modern toys. Probably be a PR nightmare, just like you've said, Steve. They just won't do it and just avoid it entirely, because it's easier and safer and costs them less money to not do it than it would to sort of try to backtrack and correct and say, oh, well, here's why, and try to explain. Because that would be perceived badly too, when you know, a $1 billion corporate entity is trying to explain to you why you shouldn't be offended. Then it's like levels on levels of things that they don't want to do. Luke said, his tank, I'm ordering 2 to put behind my Cobra Infantry platoon diorama. You must have a big shelf, Luke.
That's gonna look awesome.
It's gonna look awesome, but it's gonna be huge. Larry, I'm glad I got the Slave Leia when it came out. Yes, so that's the irony, is that it did come out, and that just makes the price of that figure go up and up and up. I had a thought, and it's completely escaped me now. But trying to his tank, HasLab, price point, Ula. Anyway, it's gone. It's gone. I don't think it's coming back. We are at 1 hour and 24 minutes, which is, I would say, a fair amount over the hour that we normally shoot for. So on that note, we've covered all the news. Anything else you wanted to chat about, Steve, or anything?
I think I'm good. I don't think I have anything really pressing. Just bring on more 87 characters.
And later.
And later. Yeah, and later.
Steve, I know this about you. Probably a lot of people don't know this about you. You do a movie podcast. I do a weekly movie podcast called They Came from the North. Originally started in 2008. It was 4 people from a now defunct website that specialized in home video reviews, Blu-rays, DVDs, that sort of thing, based out of Los Angeles. But there were 4 of us from Canada who all got together and started doing movie podcasts. During the pandemic, myself and a friend of mine, Gabriel Girard from Montreal, we decided to resurrect it. So we've been doing it every week. It's been a hoot.
it, you know, if you're interested in movies, if movies are something that, you know, ticks the boxes, we've both been film snobs since the late 90s. So, you know, it's maybe a little cerebral, but also fun, you know, also goofy fun. We did a 3.5 hour Conan the Barbarian 40th anniversary special a few weeks ago, which a lot of people seem to like. So, hey.
I started listening a while ago. I don't know. I've never even mentioned this to you. I started listening to it a while ago, and
Thank you.
I love it. Great. It's if you like movies, it's a great listen. It's very accessible. I will say, like you say, it's a little cerebral. I would disagree with that. I would say it's pretty accessible. What I will say is, if you're a fan of Ridley Scott, you will love his podcast. If you're a fan of Wes Anderson, maybe skip last week's episode. I've been a movie guy for a long, long time too. I worked in a video store off and on for like 6 years, a little over 6 years, I think, until it effectively closed down fairly recently. But Wes Anderson's one of my favorites, and you did him a disservice, I think. But I agree. Moonrise Kingdom is by far his weakest film.
Yeah.
Anyway, we digress. Thank you guys for coming. Steve, it's been a pleasure. It's been great. I will definitely have you back on soon.
Thank you, sir.
Now, I don't know when. We may do a big sort of Canada Day thing. You know, in the next couple of weeks here, with Canada Day coming up, with the group being Canadian, with us being Canadian. So we'll see. Thank you guys all for joining, commenting. It makes it so much easier for us when we have stuff to interact with, comments and such. But on that note, thank you, and have a great week. We will talk to you again next week with even more Wednesday news, because it just keeps coming. But thank you, and good day. We will talk to you next time. Bye-bye.